Human rights are not written in elaborate documents. They are actualized in actions and reparatory justice and in equality.
While we acknowledge that our history cannot be rewritten, we must use this forum and other similar platforms to meaningfully elevate our dialogue to a path of bold, decisive action which frontally addresses the odious, exploitative legacy of colonialism that systematically created the persistent underdevelopment and marginalization of Caribbean nations and African nations and many others in the global South.
It is time for specific commitments to be entered into by multilateral organizations.
Because all the institutions need to join forces. We are here to listen. What are your goals? What are your objectives? And how can UNESCO support these objectives? And how can we really deliver better for our people?
It is still a reality, and racism impedes the achievements of human rights. So how can we galvanize momentum around our shared responsibility to combat the scourge of racism, radical discrimination, racial discrimination, and xenophobia? That are concrete steps governments can take to ensure that full protection and respect of human rights within their borders. Racism is a global problem that manifests in every single country. Therefore, every single country must take a stance against it. For precisely this reason, this forum serves a critical purpose.
No, this forum has to go beyond all that. It has to identify and drive forward specific action.
The establishment of this forum by the General Assembly crystallized the commitment of the international community to accelerate along the path towards full equality and justice for people of African descent everywhere.
I would appreciate that we come up with more concrete and targeted recommendations.
For this, I should like to appeal that there be specific actions. Action now, reparatory justice, a commitment that means economic resources.
It is in this vein that CARICOM continues to make the call for reparatory justice and will be taking concrete action to identify pragmatic steps towards its achievement.
What specific actions can be carried out?
It's past time to recognize and repair long-standing wrongs. We must act with greater urgency to rid our societies of the scourge of racism and ensure the full political, economic and social inclusion of people of African descent as equal citizens without discrimination.
What specific steps can we take?
I thank all the stakeholders that contributed to the forum's first session and made concrete proposals. Allow me to recall that last October, the Human Rights Council adopted a resolution entitled From Rhetoric to Reality, a global call for concrete action against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance.
We cannot continue to dream forever. I therefore call for concrete actions from the Permanent Forum and those that we influence, including calling for a second decade.
I also invite you to ensure the full and effective implementation of the mandate of the Permanent Forum.
That will move from this rhetoric to implementation and to press governments, and that's where we've got to go for the implementation.
We appeal for urgent action.
Urging all those who write the declarations and reports to also accompany these by action plans. I thank you.
take concrete actions.
Members of the forum, great delegates. Many of the opening statements called for concrete action. On April 5th, this forum received a mandate from the Afro-descendant people that was signed by 248 individuals and organizations from over 20 countries, many of them in the room today, instructing the forum to request an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice on their status as prisoners of war under the Geneva Convention. The mandate laid out the firm basis of this forum's ability to make such a request under UN Charter Article 96, Article 65 of the Statute of the International Court of Justice, and Resolution 75/314 establishing this forum. Resolution 75/314 specifically states that this forum can, quote, request the preparation and dissemination of information by the United Nations system on issues relating to people of African descent, end quote. As you may know, there is much skepticism about the value of this forum, whether it will be just another UN organ that collects information and does nothing, or whether or not it will be a champion of African people and civil society. Unfortunately, there has been no formal response by the members of this forum to the mandate it has received. Therefore, we have taken the liberty of assisting this forum by presenting the forum members with a draft request to the Registrar of the ICJ for an advisory opinion, which is the first step in this process. We believe that a crowning jewel of this second session would be the ceremonial signing of the request, showing a true working partnership between people of African descent, their civil society organizations, and this forum, while also demonstrating that it does not take months and years to get things done. In closing, I repeat the words of former African Union Ambassador to the United States, Her Excellency Ambassador Erikana Chihombori-Quao, who also sent this forum a letter on April 5th stating, quote, we are certain that such an effort by the forum will help solidify the forum's reputation as a champion of African people everywhere, end quote. President Epsie Campbell-Barr, please sign the request to the ICJ for an advisory opinion on the status of the Afro-descendant people under international law.